Okay, good morning. This will be the update for today. It's probably going to be taking place more than just this morning. Um, I wanted to show some of the things that I did. So, the page was originally supposed to be this top half section, and then them talking was the first half of the page, and then this was his page on its own, this second part. But I decided that it looked a lot better if I included these two parts together and left this as its own page to have more space to do this part. So, I've just been messing around with that idea and I think it looks a lot better. The sketch for this is done and how the rest of the page is going to look, but this is where I have the liner as of right now. But I wanted, because this is just a test page, I wanted to try out coloring the part that I finished. Like, this is the complete line art for this top half. This is what the final line art is going to look like without the color. So now I'm adding the color, and I'm just going to go through a bit of the process of how I do that. So I add another layer that is empty. And if you put the layer you're going to color above the layer that you drew on, it just covers the line art. So you have to put it underneath, so then you can color inside the lines. And all of the coloring is outside of the lines, but that is on purpose to make sure that there's no gaps. And then when I'm done coloring this portion, I just go around with the eraser and erase around. Obviously not with this big of an eraser. And I will go and erase around the edges because that makes sure that everything is completely full. And when I get the base color of this drawing done, I will then show how I shade. Okay, so here is the base colors for the main character. And I'm going to show you basically some of the things I've learned. So I use the watercolor tool when I'm coloring, and I'll show you why. It blends really well. So this is the color on its own, and then this is the color when you're touching it with other colors, and I'll show in this video what that will look like. So the reason why I have the red on right now is I'm going to show you a cool trick that I learned just yesterday. I was looking online at some things about the brush types in this to see if there was any way to make transparent, like if you were looking in a glass, how it would be transparent. And this was a cool tip that I want the outer areas of his eyes to be red. So then I'm going to layer over continuously with the yellow or the white, the off-white, and it's going to leave this sort of texture in and around his eyes, and then where I want it to be more bright near his eye, his actual iris, we'll make it more white, and then you see how with only two colors I've created a whole gradient within his eyes. So that's just a trick I just learned, but I'm going to show you the things that I've been doing to color before. So I go with my very dark shadows first, and then we'll color in. So I'm going to use this tool, which is the dropper tool. So it will put exactly what color blue he is. And then I go down, straight down in the values to a darker hue. When I'm happy with the color, which I am, that will be the shadow. So now I need to decide where the light source is coming from. And as you can see from the eye, I already sort of know that the light is around here. So I leave an indicator, which will just be that dot, that the light source on both of the characters is coming from this direction. This is not a complicated lighting scene. Sometimes there will be lighting from here and here, and then you have to adjust. But this is in a restaurant, the light would be about here. So that's where I will put it. Then I will go into the character and begin to shade. usually I do this, which is just make huge strokes, and they do not need to be perfect because, as you'll see later, I'm going to add on and on and on. The only thing that matters is at the very outside, like the part that is going to be the darkest is in fact the darkest. But everything else here, see how that's lighter? That doesn't really matter because it's going to be changed when I add the other colors. So I just go around and add where the lighting would be. This is one of my strongest things in my art is I practice a lot is lighting. So though even if the line art doesn't look that great, I feel like the coloring will really carry where the line art sometimes isn't as good. So that's basically where the darkest shadows will be in the blue. Then you do the exact same thing with the green. You use the eyedropper tool for the green. You go down in the green value. Check if that's how I want it. No, I think that's a little too dark. This looks better. Because you want them to be around the same value as each other. Like you don't want one to be darker than the other. Yeah, so you don't want one to be darker than the other. You want them to be around the same, so that is around the same as this tone, as you can see. So then I just go and will sort of make my broad strokes here for the sake of time, where the lighting would go, and color in the darkest parts, especially as the rest of them don't necessarily matter how dark they are, and you'll see why in a second. This part also looks like this is a huge contrast, right? Like it's only really dark and really light, but that will change or the drawing will be very jarring. So yeah. And then finally, there are two more colors. I'm going to leave the nose around alone for right now because that one takes up the littlest amount of space. Check my color. I find that that is a good color to use for the third section of him, which is the dark green around his collars. I add it. So now you'll see that this is a very rough looking coloration, but it will look a lot better. So I'm going to go into this value, or sorry, this one, the darker one, and between the darkest one, which is this value, and the one that is currently his light or natural base tone, and I want to go somewhere in the middle right now. So I check. I think that this is too dark, so I go up. This is much better. See how the lighter color will blend with the darker color and the lighter color sort of overtakes the darker color because I'm adding it after? That is because he is never meant to be that dark all the way around. But you have to do this several times. So then, in the parts where I didn't shade at all, you add a little bit because there is still shading in this section, but it will never be as dark as this part. So you just go around, and it's okay if it overtakes the dark because the dark section is actually only supposed to be a very minimal amount, but you add a lot so everything blends together. So that's what his face will look like now. His arm will look like now. So then, I'm not going to do the whole clothes. I just did it to show you a long example. I'm just going to do his face and show you everything. So, I have this color, but I need it to be a bit darker. So, I will go down and over into this quadrant, which is means that it's darker on the blue side and not the gray side. Because it's like you're looking between the black, white, and blue, and I want it to be more blue. So I check my color, that looks good. And this one you are just sort of broad strokes. So that is about as much color definition as this drawing requires. This section will be a lot more extra, like a lot more exaggerated in the color because of the way the panel is, but since this one is not supposed to be anything extraordinary with the coloring, this is as far as I'm going to go. But finally, you do need to add your highlights. So you go to the blue section again, and you're going to go up and into the white quadrant and add the light. So these sections of him, even though this is mixed with the dark, is still closer to the light, so you will get this lighter effect on his head. Some people shade with white when they do this, but I don't really like doing that. So that's about what the final look for his face will be. I'm going to completely color him, erase him, and then you can see what the final coloring will look like for the pages. And this is what the final product after erasing and everything will look like. Yeah.